John Wick Chapter 4 brings the Keanu Reeves-fronted action franchise to a fittingly bloody conclusion. But does John get to walk off into the sunset? In the original John Wick, the titular character was retired from his past life as a nigh unstoppable assassin until a home invasion saw his beloved puppy killed, which set him on a bloodthirsty revenge mission. In this video, we're going to discuss the ending of Chapter 4, how the franchise could continue, and much, much more. But before we head back to Sacré-Cœur, I'd like to say hello guys and gals, I'm Nick, and welcome to 30's Feedback. So, in John Wick Chapter 3's ending, the consequences of Johnny's actions saw the High Table seeking his head. John's mentor and New York Continental manager Winston also turned to him for help fighting off a takeover attempt by the table. In the shocking final moments, Winston turned on John, shooting him off the hotel's roof to prove his loyalty. John Wick Chapter 4 picks up months later, with John planning to wipe out the High Table or die trying, whichever comes first. However, Winston proposes to John there's a cleaner way to get out from under the table. Despite their spirited efforts, the High Table has little luck trying to stop Wick after John kills the table's elder in the opening scene. New John Wick villain the Marquis de Gramont punishes Winston for his failure to stop Wick by destroying the Continental and murdering faithful concierge Sharon. Rest in peace Lance Reddick in every way imaginable. They then send gifted, ambitious tracker dubbed Mr. Nobody after John, and blackmail Wick's former friend Kane into joining the chase too. If Kane refuses, his daughter will be murdered. Chapter 4's ending is set in motion when Winston proposes that John challenge the Marquis to a good, old-fashioned duel, which the latter must accept according to the High Table's customs. After a misadventure in Berlin where John renews his ties to the Ruska Roma and takes down Scott Adkins' High Table senior killer, he sits with the Marquis to hash out the duel terms. A pistol duel at sunrise at Paris's Sacré-Cœur is decided upon, but the Marquis appoints Kane to fight in his place. If John wins, he'll be free and Winston's hotel will be rebuilt. If he fails, both he and Winston die. The Marquis has no intention of playing fair either, and Chapter 4's finale is a non-stop barrage of car chases, gun battles and fistfights as every assassin in Paris is called upon to collect on Wick's $40 million bounty before he can reach the Sacré-Cœur. With some surprise help from Mr. Nobody and Donnie Yen's Kane, John just about reaches the church on time. He and Kane duel across 3 rounds using single-shot pistols and both wound each other badly. Seemingly on the verge of death, the Marquis swoops in to deliver the kill shot on John, assuming the latter's gun is empty. However, John didn't actually fire in the previous round and shoots the Marquis dead. Chapter 4 closes with Clancy Brown's The Harbinger declaring John and Kane free. The latter bids John farewell, while the gravely injured Wick requests Winston brings him home. John then sits on the church's steps, thinks of late wife Helen, and dies. The final scene sees Winston, John's dog, and Lawrence Fishburne's Bowery King at Wick's grave, where he's buried next to Helen. In a post-credit sequence, Kane reunites with his daughter, unaware Rina Sawayama's Akira is approaching with a knife, seeking vengeance for Kane killing her father Koji earlier in the story. Chapter 4 features Reeves' most grueling battle yet, making his death in the final moments all the more surprising. His demise feels somewhat abrupt since his gunshot wounds in the duel don't appear to have hit any vital organs, but considering the sheer amount of physical punishment he endures in the race to the church, including being run over by multiple vehicles and falling down countless steps, it's not such a shock. Chapter 4 makes it appear John Wick Chapter 5 won't happen, which had previously been announced alongside the fourth entry. This movie wraps up Wick's arc in a satisfying way and offers arguably the most impressive set pieces of the entire John Wick movie franchise. That said, it feels like it offers wiggle room to bring the character back. It's entirely possible Wick passed out from his many wounds during his last scene and decided it would be better if the world thought he was dead than risk further reprisals by the High Table or other assassins. For now, audiences can assume John is truly dead, but there's enough ambiguity that a fifth outing isn't entirely out of the question. One intriguing detail from John Wick Chapter 4's ending has Winston bid farewell to his old friend by touching his grave. He says, "Farewell, my son," while speaking Russian, and the symbol of the Ruska-Roma crime syndicate is seen tattooed on his wrist. While this scene could be read as a twist revealing Winston really is Wick's father, the more likely explanation is the manager himself has past ties to the Ruska-Roma, which might explain the unusually close bond between them. The upcoming Ballerina movie might expand on these potential links, but my son probably shouldn't be read in a literal sense. Shamir Anderson's Mr. Nobody is a fun new addition to the saga and spends Chapter 4 chasing after Wick, but without ever trying to kill him. That's because he's waiting until Wick's ever-increasing bounty reaches a certain threshold and uses his borderline supernatural gift for tracking the assassin down to broker a sweet deal with the Marquis. Anderson's killer doesn't ultimately cash in, because during the final act, Wick saves Mr. Nobody's loyal dog from certain death. When it comes time to kill Wick, the tracker can't take the shot and instead sits back to see how the Kane-Wick duel unfolds. The post-credit scene suggests Akira is about to claim revenge on Kane, but it cuts before confirming the kill. Kane might be blind, but he displayed a knack for sensing imminent danger throughout the sequel, so it's doubtful he wouldn't notice Akira's presence when she's closing in. The previous John Wick sequels all ended on cliffhangers, so perhaps this final moment is testing interest in a potential spin-off where Kane and Akira become very reluctant partners. If further John Wick spin-offs must happen, a sequel fronted by Yen and Sawayama sounds like an intriguing concept to explore. The latest sequel closes with Wick's death. And while a character being deceased has never stood in the way of Hollywood demanding sequels, it seems both Keanu Reeves and Chapter 4 director Chad Stahelski are ready to move on. At least for now. The franchise itself is far from over, with two upcoming spin-offs on the horizon. The first is The Continental, a prequel miniseries set in the 1970s, detailing how young Winston became the manager of the hip New York hotel frequented by assassins. Despite originally being produced by Starz, the network later sold the prequel to Peacock, and it's set to premiere sometime in 2023. The second offshoot is Ballerina, which follows Ana de Armas's dancer/assassin who briefly appeared in John Wick Chapter 3. This Len Wiseman directed action thriller is set between the third and fourth entries, with de Armas's Rooney seeking vengeance for the killing of her family. Series luminaries will fill out the supporting cast, including McShane, Reddick and Reeves himself as Wick, with the latter and Rooney confirmed to have a major fight scene during the story. If John Wick Chapter 4 truly is the end of the road for the Baba Yaga's story, the question becomes whether the series can continue without Keanu Reeves. With the upcoming spin-offs, the producers behind the franchise will see if the world of John Wick has legs without its original lead. The world building behind the saga has long fascinated viewers, and there are many factions and side characters the film could only touch upon that can now be fleshed out further. Ultimately, it will depend upon the reception of the TV show and Ana de Armas' spin-off to decide if the property can survive without Keanu at the centre. John Wick Chapter 4 might be the most acclaimed entry yet, but it sounds like Reeves and director Stahelski need some time away before even considering making Chapter 5 happen. As it stands, the fourth film is more than a worthy conclusion to the current story. Considering there's so much about his origins that remain unknown, there's a possibility of a prequel that could even explore the so-called impossible job Wick took to secure his original retirement with Helen. There's a lot left to explore in the world of John Wick, and hopefully Reeves will still be a part of it somehow. What do you guys think? Was it the ending you expected? And were you surprised Wick seemed to die at the end of Chapter 4? Let me know below.